From Content 360, this is the state of client acquisition. I love working with my wife.
So do I, and you just stole my phrase. Is that how you take credit for my stuff?
I take credit for your stuff, but also because I wanted you to take more credit for my stuff. So that's why I brought you into the business, darling.
First of all, I brought myself into the business.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, on that note, I wanted to talk to you today because, and it's kind of weird to be interviewing my own wife, but let's just roll with it. I wanted to bring you into the conversation today because I find so many of your thoughts genuinely fascinating. You've helped me so much with my own mindset, which is also one of the reasons why I married you, that I felt it was such a great idea that you came up with the idea that you would join the business, right? So up until November, it was my clients, it was my business, and sort of on the side, you try to set up your own thing, but with a baby and managing a household, it's just too much. And so you came up with the idea of just, hey, let's get in and let's help our clients overcome their mindset challenges, which there are plenty of them and there's a lot to do. And then I realized sometimes I was not getting through to my clients as far as mindset was concerned. I always felt like whenever they don't do the work, it feels like I'm beating my fist against the brick wall and I cannot get through to them. And with two of them that you've now worked with, it seems like you really are unlocking things that I was not able to do. So that's why I wanted to bring you in. That's why I wanted to have the conversation. So maybe if we could start with you sharing a few, experiences from those clients, of course, not naming them by name, but if you could share some of those conversations that you've had, and maybe from that you can extrapolate what are the mindset issues that solopreneurs, founders struggle with.
Yeah, well, sorry, I'm a fan of taking notes.
Go for it.
All the time. Watch what you say. So yeah, I mean, there's really three big topics. And those would be self-doubt, having a strong why, and also relationships. So these are three big areas as entrepreneurs that we either might have clear or other ones that might not be so clear, but then at the end, it's like everything just becomes a soup. Because if we don't have like specific walls where we say, okay, this is where this starts, this is where this ends, this is what I'm doing right now, then it's just going to be, pardon my French, a shit show. Okay. So yes, I've worked with two of our clients right now. We have another one coming in this week as well. And mainly what we talk about, and this is like my main sauce, right, which is mindset and separating ourselves from our voices, because we have different voices we have within ourselves, right? We have that voice that's like, all right, we're going to get this done. This is like who we are or who we're creating ourselves to be. And then there's the other sort of like that inner child, afraid to take risk, afraid to being judged, afraid to be seen as the one who couldn't make it or didn't make it, right? So we have all of these different things within ourselves. And we have to be able to separate ourselves from these voices in order to be efficient with the time that we have every day to get our business done. So that self-doubt can be a killer.
So self-doubt is one of the themes, but the one thing that for me was revolutionary, it was really amazing to hear it from you. It was this thing where whenever I had some form of self-doubt, that you actually separate yourself from it, that you really see it as a different personality. And in religious terms, you see it as the enemy, the devil, speaking to you and trying to sabotage you.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you feel this sense of, oh my God, I'm not sure if I'm going to make, I'm not sure if I can do this, whatever it is, prospecting and selling people on the phone, it feels like I don't have any financial security, as it was, especially when we met. I feel that this was such a revolutionary concept for me. Could you maybe talk about, like, specifically using the examples of the two clients, how you help them separate yourself from this inner voice How can you do that? Because it feels so impossible to do in the moment when you're caught up in this.
Yeah, well,
And sorry,
that's the thing.
one last point on this. I've benefited so much from having you around that when I had these moments, that you actually were able to point it out to me. It's this pointing out in the moment that is so hard to achieve, and that's why it's so key to have a coach, right? So I'm going all over the place, but maybe you can pick it up from here. What are the examples of our clients that they are specifically struggling with in this context, the separating themselves?
Yeah, well, as prospecting is a huge thing of business, right? So prospecting to us might seem like such a daunting thing, depending on, obviously, like everything has that root. And so where do those root come from? Is it from how we were raised, what we were raised to think that selling is? Are we taking people's money? Like, did we come from an environment where we had so little that the second someone approached us to get us to buy something, we are in complete survival mode of like, no, I cannot spend money. Like, why are you trying to sell me something? So we sort of start projecting those feelings when we start having conversations with other people. So if a client is going to prospect and have genuine conversations, what might be in the background is that conversation like, I am harassing them. I am going to take their money away.
Mm-hmm.
I am putting their livelihood on the line. When in reality is like, no, you're actually making the story about that person because you really have no clue where they're at. They might be in the same spot thinking, wow, I really need help with this, but like, where am I going to find the person who's going to help me? And then you might actually be the hero who comes in and it's like, comes to save the day. And you bring your skill set, everything you've done with your life, what you worked so hard to do to help them with that problem they have, so that then you can actually make their livelihood even better. But
So
we
it seems like a case of, sorry to interrupt, it seems like a case of projection. Let's stick with this, that you take your own limiting beliefs and project them onto the person who you are prospecting with. And so that's one element of it. But there's also the issue of this will not be the case in 95% of cases. When you are starting conversations, when you're prospecting with 100 people, 95 of them will not need you at this time, or they will not want to work with you. How can you help people overcome the inhibition to think like, oh my God, I'm bothering them? What would you say to someone when they have this challenge?
So recently, I just had a really awesome coaching call where I just felt that it was fire
I heard
because
you. It was pretty spectacular.
it's really reframing everything in life and the mindset. It's about reframing the way we look at things, because we can look at things as a terrifying experience, or we can look at something as like an exhilarating feeling of excitement. Really, if you look about it, it's like the same thing but just from different perspectives. If you're going
Hmm.
to jump off of a plane, it's freaky because you really have no clue. Like, you could technically die, but on the other hand, you feel that you're completely free of everything. You're really dropping free.
It's a
So
great analogy. I love that. It's a great
there's
analogy.
there's the two
Yeah.
analogies. I mean, when I did that, that's what it felt. I said, this is probably what that feels like. Everything is lifted off your shoulders. You have nothing on you. You're free. So being able to reframe how you look at prospecting, and even how you create a game in your head to make it a thing that you really want to do. Like, you envision yourself, and this is where an alter ego comes in, right? And this is something that I help our clients do, which is you create this persona, and this persona is really into these things that you struggle with. So you switch things. What you're afraid of doing, they are fueled by it, right? So if you are scared of having conversations because you think you're going to be not genuine, or you're going to be trying to trick them to buy from you and give you their money.
Salesy. People have
Yeah,
often the issue of, oh, I'm being salesy. You know.
exactly. So if you switch that and instead you're like, I got to feed my family. I have a purpose here. My days are tick tock. The clock is ticking. I have one less day. What am I doing? Is everything
Absolutely.
I've done in the past, is everything I've done in the past worth my lifetime or somebody else investing into my own life? So it's really, if you think about, you are giving yourself the credit or giving it the credit. If you think of an alter ego, you are putting that person as the person who has done the work, and therefore they go and prospect because that is their treasure. That is their treasure box. They have worked so hard on building this skill set and they're offering it to you. If the person doesn't want to take the treasure, that's fine. Keep offering it. You're going to find that person who's going to need it. But if you don't offer your treasure, no one will know what the hell you have. So you
Hmm.
need to offer
Hmm.
it. You need to put yourself on the line, because
Hmm.
if you don't put yourself on the line, your family's livelihood is on the line.
Well, to which, and I'm going to be devil's advocate here, to which you could say, well, my family's livelihood is not going to be on the line because I can then get still back into my job, into a past job that I had.
But as entrepreneurs, we see that as failure. Okay.
And of course,
So,
it would be a failure. The thing is, if this is maybe this is an angle to take on this, if you see this as a possibility, then you're not really an entrepreneur. You don't really want that. You don't really want to succeed on your own terms. And I'm not saying it's worse. It's just you're not that kind of person. And I wonder if that is again my slightly harsher self, the one that I wanted to avoid or sort of put back into the cage and by bringing you in. But I'm thinking, if someone does not do the work, despite so many different mindset coaching calls and so on, if this is an ongoing thing and they still cannot get themselves to do the hard work, which is effectively prospecting and being willing to put out content without any engagement, right? The getting crickets on your content and pushing through that phase. If you're not willing to do that repeatedly over months and months, then maybe you're just not cut out for this. Maybe you don't really want it enough. And
but
maybe
now
that
you're
goes into
taking it,
the
but now you're
yeah.
taking into a different direction, because now you're going into more of like the self-doubt, that what if they do not fulfill, um what if they are not able to overcome their self-doubt, then that's what would end up happening, which essentially
Hmm.
relates that all of that is it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay,
Hmm.
so yeah, we can go into that route where it's like your doubts can stack up to such a level that then they're the ones drowning you and you are the one who dies. So you must give up and give up your idea of being an entrepreneur and then going back to getting a job. So that is one side, really. But the side of the alter ego really is that everything that comes up as a negative, you're going to switch it around so that then it turns into a positive and it turns into fuel. So there's a dark side of thinking about an alter ego, because sometimes you need to be fueled by some negative energy or something that something to get you started, to get you to a certain level. And it's not that it has to be negative in the context of like, I'm going to prove everyone wrong, although that really works for some people. So for some people, staying on the positive side, thinking about, I'm really going to make an impact if I do this, or if my alter ego does this. Or I need to look at the negative. I need to prove everyone wrong. I need to prove myself wrong. I need to overcome myself. I need to kill like the image of who I am today so that I can become tomorrow. So there's different ways in which you can go about it, right? So you
Hmm.
can either like be swallowed in the pain of this of discomfort, which is like if we don't get used to being in the discomfort, and if you don't get used to being sort of the beast who needs to confront everything, you won't be able to, because you will be stopped by everything that happens and comes your way.
Hmm. Yeah. No, for me, the alter ego, to bring it down to very like concrete terms, for me, what was so invaluable when you pointed these things out to me is the fact that when you are, for example, watching, it could be even like a motivational video or even like a mindset related to blog post or book or video, whatever, is that you already are open to a few things. You know that you have a couple of mindset issues that you need to work on, and you're open to them. And it's like a couple of doors or windows in your soul are open to receive that information. the great benefit, this is what I think our clients will so benefit from you, as I have when I was not a client, but when we were either dating or before even that, and then
Accountability
we were
partners.
married. Yeah, we were not really dating, to be honest. But
We didn't really date much.
yeah, we didn't date it all that much. But the thing that I found so valuable is that you, by asking the right questions, are able to open some of those windows or doors that were previously closed, that you were not even aware that were closed and that needed to be violently opened, sort of violently, right? By just simply by having someone to point something out to you that you are not doing. Like, best example was when Mark, as you know, he pointed out to me that although I thought I was doing a lot of work, I wasn't.
Mhm.
I was starting 1.5 conversations a day.
Yeah.
Similarly, when I had some of my down times, when I felt like, oh my God, I don't know if like, I don't know where to get clients from and so on. It's not working. You pointed out to me like that this is again like a pattern that I'm allowing the enemy to speak to me. And that in that moment, pointing that out was so invaluable. So could you maybe, let's go into specific examples of our clients, not mentioning
Well,
names, but
or
let's
let's
call them.
use you, right?
Sure,
Because
sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um,
the way that
but,
this thing works is that it's gonna come in different from different angles, and it's gonna look, every thought is gonna look different. It's gonna feel as if maybe you shouldn't be doing this and you should be doing this instead. So it's gonna
mhm,
try to derail you.
yeah.
Maybe you've done enough. Derail. You're tired. You haven't slept your 7, 8 hours.
Mm,
Derail. Aren't you
mhm,
hungry? Like, shouldn't you help Anna with something? Hey, oh my God, I have to pay this. Shouldn't I pay this now? Because it's
mhm,
gonna come in from different angles. And sometimes we think, no, 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 this is also my priority. Really, is it though?
mhm. And that means very specifically, for example, setting yourself the goal of you need to start 20 outbound prospecting conversations a day. And if some admin task comes up, oh, I still need to roll up the garden hose outside, you need to say no. You need no, then the garden hose will stay unrolled, or or something else will not be done. The world is not going to crash and burn, but I have to stick to this. And to recognize that these little things, the admin tasks that keep piling up, that they are just distractions, that we still, you use this great phrase, I won't rest when I'm tired, I rest when I'm done, right? And that, I think, is the specific thing that you help our clients with and that you help me with, to recognize when that voice is talking to you.
Yeah, yeah. And it always comes in different shapes. So we always have to be alert. And well, but I mean, we've talked about a lot of different topics, right? So we've talked about that self-doubt, about the alter ego. So how do we put all of that together?
Well, I mean, this, you tell me, because how would you say, if you were to summarize your mindset work with our clients, how do self-doubt, alter ego, and having, being aware, externalizing the negative voice, how do all of these play together? What is the unified theory of Anna's mindset coaching?
I like to separate them, and I like to separate from all of these things. So as we're standing here, there's always some voice in the background that's telling you, hey, you should be saying this instead, or you should go about it this way, or maybe you shouldn't have said that. So if you think about it, there is a narrator in our head. There's someone who's narrating everything that's happening. So therefore, you're not really the voice. The voice is something else. So there needs to be a really harsh sort of separation you slowly have to do, and this is a process. This is something that takes time for you to realize who it is that's like this voice, the voice of who you are, and the voice that's trying to derail you from your goals, or the voice that's like still part of you, but that's like sort of like that inner child who's just scared. So let's put them into three people, right? There is who you are as your goals, that ideal self of who you want to become, which in essence is sort of your alter ego. Then there is the background standard of who we are, which
Mhm.
most of the time is the person who's just like, oh, like, I don't want to do this. I'm tired. I didn't sleep well. I'm hungry. I don't want to do this. That is our base self. That's who we are normally. Like, we default to being this like lazy creatures who just, we don't really want much structure. We already have structure when we
Mm,
had parents around us. So we just want to be our free selves. So that's that base ground of who we are, the standard self. Then there's that ideal self, which is that alter ego. That is a person who wants to achieve the goals, right? The sort of like the idea of the entrepreneur. So there's those two levels, right? And then there's outside of that, which is sort of like we're in this circle with this few voices. And then on the outside is the enemy, who's like trying to
mhm,
completely just mess everything up so you do
mhm,
not accomplish those things. And so that at the end of your life, which is like, this is like what I have repeating in my head the past few hours, because we listened to this incredible sort of like slap in the face video that tells you 30, 40 years down the road, when you realize that you have or have not done the things that you should have done, when you're in your deathbed, that's when you're going to say, I should have done those things.
mhm,
So essentially, we want to think of that enemy who's outside of us as that entity that wants us to just completely mess everything up so that we don't accomplish that. And that is the resentment and the pain and the unfulfillment that we will feel before we leave this planet, when we're like,
mm.
wow,
Yeah,
I
that's
could have.
that's the goal that this outside force trying to get us in. And the thing is, and that's what I also found very useful in your model here, is that those two personalities, the kind of are the good self and the bad self, the noble, the virtuous self, and the lazy self, they're all in the circle. This is who we are. And then there is the outside enemy who's sort of like throwing poison seeds into our garden. But he's outside. But those poison seeds are willingly taken up and picked up by
And put into your little
the
garden.
lesser self, by the lazy self, by the procrastinating self. And so this is what we have to guard against. And I feel that you've really opened my eyes on this particular topic, and I couldn't be happier that you're now bringing the Promethean fire from the mountain, from the gods, to our clients now as well.
Thank you.
Awesome. The State of Client Acquisition is a Content 360 production. Music by Gavin Knox Grant. To sign up for alerts and to submit written and audio questions, go to stateofclientacquisition.com.
Loose sleeves in this high-speed condition. Montreal girls in the tail end of winter. Caffeine burned, wide awake dreams